Hey, today I am going to show you how to layer and manipulate and organize all kinds of clutter to make your houses look fuller and have more personality and give it more of a lived in look. So I thought since Sims is coming out with a brand new stuff pack at the end of the month dedicated to tiny homes, I would show you this by doing a little tiny home. I'm doing Slip 42. I'm just going to make it over. Slip 42 is a little mobile home in Strangerville, and after I cleared everything, give myself a blank slate, I picked an inspiration piece. I picked this fun little rug because I liked all the colors in it, and I figured it'd make it easier to pick all the colors in the room I want to work with by choosing the rug. And I wanted to make it kind of bright and fun because I envision an art student living here, and she's on a budget, and she's really broke, and at the same time, I feel like she's very creative. So she would put her talents to work by making her home really cute and cozy and homey. And I see her as a little girly, so I'm gonna go with that kind of feeling, and that's what I'm gonna have in mind. Putting down the big furniture now because first thing I like to do to get out of the way is put the big furniture down. And remember, you can use Alt to move stuff more freely if you press Alt while you move your mouse. And you're gonna need that function when you're working on the clutter. And I already went over that in my basic build video. So after I'm laying down all the big furniture, and I'm not changing the layout that much because it's seriously tiny. 4 by, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 4 by 8 grid squares. So I'm going to put a little divider to give her a little more privacy with the room. And I could have gone something cutesy, but I figured she's an adult, so forget about it. I'll go with the more adult looking divider. And I'm going to slide it a little bit into the exterior wall just to give a little more space in that pathway. But I still am going to have a lot of fun and cutesiness in this home because that's just how I see her personality. I see her as the kind of person who's sitting around and decides to just, painting something on the wall or maybe embellishing. I struggle sometimes with the small space builds because just so much gets in your way. You got to constantly be moving stuff out of your way to get to the area you want to work on. So, pardon me if I occasionally look kind of clumsy and grab the wrong things or have to keep moving stuff around or changing on this. I like to layer rugs to kind of define areas. I kind of like that rug, so I use it in the kitchen too. And if you hit Control, grab an item and then hit Control and then use your left and right black brackets while you're holding Control down, you can make them bigger and smaller. So grab the item with your mouse, click on it so you grab a hold of it. Depress Control, and while you're holding Control down, click left bracket one or more times. Every time you press it, the item will get smaller. Click right bracket one or more times. Every time you press it, the item will get larger. So that's how I took those big rugs, and I just made them smaller, and I made one even smaller for the bedroom. I want to give her kind of a cozy place to sit, but full-size couches are not going to work, so I'm going with a love seat. I just want to have some place if she has a friend over or she wants to read a book, and of course she's going to definitely need a desk. I could have gone with a fancier couch, but again, I saw her as kind of somebody living on a budget, so I didn't want to glam the place up too much, but I'm going to plop down a little desk and a little bookshelf, and I always like the way those two things go together, so that works for me. Give her a desk chair. You can freely rotate objects like I'm doing with the easel now, just by having it on the Sims 3 camera and holding down Alt while you rotate it with the mouse, just spin it around. You place things a little askew like that, they look a little more natural. The clutter's the fun part because I feel like the clutter really shows off a person's personality. She's an artist, so I figure a lot of her clutter is going to be artistically related or maybe inspirational things or something that has sentimental value. Whereas somebody who's maybe a scientist, their clutter may be totally different. They may want clutter like little gadgets and test tube things. So it really adds your Sim's personality when you come up with the kinds of clutter that you would see in their particular room or house. This board is great when you are arranging clutter. I love it. It is custom content. You have to download it. You don't actually need it to create your clutter or to arrange your objects. I just find it a useful tool in doing that, but if you don't like custom content, I'm going to show you how to do it without the red board. But first, let's understand what we're doing here. When you want to put something down on a surface in The Sims, whether it be a decoration or a functional object, it's almost as if each surface, whether it's a countertop or a shelf, has a spot where the things will stick to and they'll kind of lock there. And these spots that accept items don't exactly make for a nice arrangement, and they're limited, so you can't put as much as you want on there, and you can't move them around, not even with the Alt key depressed very well. So you get the surfaces out of the way, and you want to arrange the objects in kind of mid-air. That's where this board comes in to help you. The red board was designed so that you can put as many objects as you want on it, and almost any object will go on it, and then you can hold the Alt key and move the board around to whatever height you desire. And then you can transfer your objects over from the board to the location where you want them to ultimately be. So I just set my red board to be at about the height I want my shelves at. Now I'm going to get my shelves out of the way so that my items aren't drawn to them like a magnet to stick and lock there. I'm just going to get rid of them, and I'm going to use the red board to help me adjust the height of my items and then arrange them in mid-air. And I'm just going to throw them as if the shelves were actually there. How would I put them? How would she have them? So I'm going to select a bunch of kitchen clutter that I think she would have, some like pickled vegetables, some greeting cards maybe her friend sent her for her birthday, pictures, lemons, whatever. Once I have them all on my red board, I'm going to start sliding them over into mid-air where they're going to be permanently. Later, I'm going to go get the shelf and put it under the items. Now, you don't need a red board to do this. You could actually just do this with any shelf in the game. Just, it's going to be a little bit more frustrating because you can't put as much stuff on the shelf, and it's going to take a little longer to get them transferred over and arrange them. But you can do the same thing with any game shelf. You don't need to download custom content if you prefer not to. If you do want the red shelf, I'm going to link to where you could download it. And once you get the regular shelves underneath, it will not look like they're floating in mid-air. These are just items, so it doesn't really matter if you arrange them this way. Your Sim's never going to actually pick them up and use them. The only exception to this rule is when you have a functional item, like a teapot, a coffee pot, a computer, microwave, anything that your Sim actually interacts with that they have to use, that has to be on the proper surface that it was designed for and locked into its space on that surface. So that's why my teapot I put first, because that's the thing I have to build around. The teapot I have no option to move, and I had to put it there first so I could judge everything else around it by that. And you definitely don't have to put this much clutter. Your Sim could be a minimalist and you could just have 2 or 3 things on the shelf. It doesn't matter. In this particular game and in this design, I envision her being the kind of person that just stuffs as much as she can on a shelf. It's up to you. It's just the same technique. Get everything else out of the way. Get your counters, your shelves, whatever that would normally be there out of the way, because if they're there, they're going to draw your item like a magnet, and it's going to, boom, it's going to try to lock into that place, and you won't have the freedom of movement. So figure out where you want the shelves and surfaces. You move the shelves and surfaces out of the way. You use your red board or whatever tool you're using to put them hanging in mid-air, arrange all your items in mid-air, and then you're going to put your shelves back. As long as it's not a functional item, that's fine. But if you do want your Sims to cook, you need to keep at least one countertop clear, because if you have anything floating over a countertop, they're not going to cook there. Just like if you have anything floating where a computer would go on a desk or where they would eat on a table, they're not going to use that functional space. So make sure to keep the functional spaces that you need clear. Now I'm going to clutter up the little corner of the countertop and put a lot of stuff in that corner, and I'm going to use my red shelf again to adjust my height. But again, it's not absolutely necessary you use a red shelf. You could put a counter on one side of the room, put something on the counter, then use the Alt key to freely move it over in place in mid-air, and you can do it that way. You don't need the red shelf to do it. Also, you can put the things on the floor and then hit Control 9 to raise them to the proper height, Control 0 if you need to lower it again, but that'll raise it to the proper height so that you can do it that way too. See, as long as you have an idea of where your height is, or you can adjust it up and down until you get it in your sweet spot, keep moving your counter or your shelf back there to make sure you're getting in the right spot, you're all set. And then don't forget, you can use the control bracket keys to make things bigger or smaller too, and that can help you also with your arrangements. If something looks a little too big, or it's taking up a little too much space, or if it's not filling up enough space, just change the size of it, and then it just comes all together. And keep playing with it and keep moving them around. You're not setting items down in cement. You're going to move them all you want, so keep working on it. When you first start moving stuff over, just think of it as a rough draft and try it out. Try things out in different places. Look at design magazines or websites that teach you like how to judge balanced designs by balancing the height or the weight of a piece. you know, you can really work on that and things will get better and better. You also think about, is your sim messy? Because maybe they wouldn't have things looking all so perfect. If your sim is not that messy and would be doing this for decorative purposes, then maybe they would be a little bit more precise than my girl throwing up her crap on a shelf. And now that I've got my counters back in place, I'm going to go back, I'm going to slide the shelves where I want them to be, and now it looks like everything's sitting on top of the shelves. You'd never know, right? And if you need more shelves, you can overlap the shelves to make them look like longer shelves. You can layer them, you can extend them if you ever want to, or you can compact them if you need them to get a little shorter. I mean, the length of a single shelf, you can make it bigger or smaller. It's all up to you. You can play around with it. See, I put the plan out a little too far. It went back, extending beyond the edge of the shelf. So I'm just going to add another shelf there. Maybe I'll even leave her a little space where she takes some personal photos in the game. She could throw them up there or something. I mean, who knows what you come across. Remember, you put clutter here now. You might want to change it later as your character changes, develops, and grows. And I'm getting my cute little bread box up on top of the microwave, and I keep moving all my surfaces out of the way before I try to do that, so that my bread box doesn't go and get stuck to the place on that surface, which is what the game had designed it to do. So it's easier to move everything out of the way. It's a lot less frustrating, even if you got to move it back and forth until you find your sweet spot. Now, I want to hang some stuff on the divider, but the divider is not meant for things to hang on it, so I'm going to make it easy on myself. I'm just going to draw a little wall where the divider goes, and I'm going to use that, and I'm going to hang stuff on the wall. And I can put whatever I want, whether it be artwork, whether it be utilitarian objects. When I put them on the wall, I can put them on the other side too, so she's on her bedside, she can put a few things. And when I'm finished, I'm not going to get rid of it yet, but when I'm finished, all I got to do is get rid of the wall. The divider will remain, all the stuff that's hanging in midair will remain, but the wall will be gone. And I'm not even sure what I want to put here, so I'm just going to test out a few little things. I think I'm going to put the knives because, you know, looks cute in the kitchen, but I'm thinking artwork because she is an artist, and I can imagine that she spent years making stuff and painting stuff and crafting stuff, and you know, she just loves to show it off in her cute little apartment, surrounding herself by all these beautiful, aesthetically pleasing things that she loves. So I'm just gonna play with it. You have some cute little window curtains. I love curtains. They just provide the finishing touch, and you can put curtains, they kind of lock onto a window too, so the same thing that applies with the cabinet applies with the window. If you want to move the curtains in a different spot than where it's locking onto, you just move the window out of the way. Like if I wanted to make little cafe curtains which come down halfway, I would put the curtains on the wall and then move the window back in place. But for this apartment, I just want the curtains in the right space on the window, so I'm going to leave them where they belong. You can use control brackets to change the size of the curtains if they don't seem to fit the window right. I didn't want to make these larger because it would just be so big and domineering, so I made them smaller, and then I used another one on the other side, and that just made a nice balance, and it looks like a full set. So try layering your curtains or different types. I've put like over big windows that span a room, several different layers of curtains, and it comes out kind of nice sometimes. Just keep experimenting, keep playing with things, keep trying things. I'll move things around if I decide I like this, but maybe not there. Try it somewhere else. It's okay. It's all trial and error. And like I said, the more you read designs and home decorating magazines and websites and watch TV shows like on HGTV, the more you find you pick up these little tips and inspirations from when you're putting together your rooms. So if you feel like you don't have the best artistic eye for how to arrange things, you can learn that, you can improve that just by watching actual decorating shows or studying up on actual decorating tips and techniques. There's so many of them out there you can find for free. So apply those to your sim builds and it'll actually make the builds a lot better, just like you can apply architecture techniques to when you're building the exterior of a house or business. Somebody wants a walk. Like I thought I'd try this. I thought I'd put little curtains to cover her bed nook, and I thought that might be cute, especially if she was going to have someone over. If they want to sit at the couch, they're not staring at her bed. If it were messy or something, she could be embarrassed. But didn't quite work out because they got in the way of her easel. I also set the easel askew, which I like to do because it makes it looks a little more natural. When you actually grab hold of something with the mouse and then right click it, you can turn it in 8 different directions, but sometimes it's such a sharp turn you don't want it quite that much. So if you have the Sims 3 camera activated, then you come back and you can hold it with the mouse and spin it, and it makes it spin around freely. I ended up rearranging things anyway. I put a half curtain, and I kind of like that as a little divider. Spin around freely when you hold the Alt key down. So just do that, and you don't have to be locked into one of the 8 directions that they give you with the Sims 4 camera. But you can basically use the same principle to hang curtains in midair by drawing the wall, putting the curtains on it, and then deleting the wall, and the curtains will remain there. So that's a cute way to make a divider too. If you're not crazy about the ones that the game offers you, you can just use a set of curtains or a couple of curtain panels and pop them in there. And get some lighting in there, give her a light so she can work with. I like to set the lights, like the overhead lights, to go automatic, and I like to set sometimes the smaller accent lights to have a soft glow and stay on all the time. Lighting would be fun to work with. And I'm trying to think of what kind of artwork she would have on the walls, because she is an artist, so I would like to put some kind of paintings or things along that line, but I'm not exactly sure what. We'll try to find stuff that's in our color scheme here. Some canvas paintings would be good, and some of the canvas paintings are really nice, but they're also really big. And that's where the control bracket comes in, because you just make it a little bit smaller. And that actually works in reverse as well. So I have a small space, I want to make smaller artwork, but let's say you have a really big place, and let's say you're on a budget and you don't have a lot of money for artwork on the wall. Choose the artwork that you like and use the control bracket to make the artwork bigger and make a huge painting on the wall that's like this big feature wall, and that saves you money because you don't have to buy a whole bunch of little artwork to go on the wall. So that smaller, bigger option is really great and can be used in a lot of creative ways to solve some problems when you're trying to decorate, because you don't always want something this size that they present it to you. I mean, even in Strangerville, if you see the cars in Strangerville, they're like miniature game cars in the build mode. So you take them out and you control bracket them enough, and you have full-size cars. It looks like you got a car parked in your driveway. God, these spaces get tighter and tighter. I love working on small spaces. I love the way they look at the end. I love the living in them and everything. But when you try to actually do it, everything's in your way. Now I'm just working on my shelving. See, okay, here's an example. I love that statue. I thought she would love that statue, but it was so freaking huge, so I control bracketed it to be smaller, and now I'm trying to figure out where to put it. I decided to put it on her nightstand, but because it's not the piece that goes on a shelf, it won't go on even my red shelf. How do I get it on the nightstand? Well, control 9 to get it high enough. But unfortunately, if I control 9 it high enough, it would be hovering over my nightstand. If I control 0'd it to get it down a little bit, it would be embedded in my nightstand. So the way I solved that is I got a stack of books, and I put the stack of books on the nightstand, and then I moved the little statue there, and it just hovered. The way it hovers over the nightstand, it hovered perfectly over the books, and it was a match. Now it just looks like the statue is sitting on top of the books, and it filled that gap. The books are basically filling the gap between the statue and the nightstand. So give her a little incense, a little clock. I figure suitcases make a good nightstand, because then she could store, extra storage for a tiny space. Looking forward to that tiny home stuff pack that's coming out, and I'm definitely going to go over it, and I'll probably make a video and write an article reviewing it and the stuff that's in it and what it can do. I know they're going to have Murphy beds. It doesn't look like they're going to have bunk beds or loft beds, which sucks. I know a lot of people are waiting for the bunk beds and the loft beds, which is going to be awesome when they finally come out with them. I think there are mods where you can turn beds into bunk beds and functional bunk beds. I don't know, though. I don't use a lot of mods or custom content because when I use too much, it starts to get all bleh. So I don't have a lot of custom content, but that little red shelf, I saw a few builders using it and nobody was explaining what it was. I had to go search, and I'm gonna put that aside because I want to put that in my bathroom. But let me finish with my shelves. Anyway, I had to go searching for it. I finally found it and I was like, oh, okay. Because I love watching the builds on YouTube and stuff like that. But the problem is people have been building, they've been playing The Sims for, 5 years, and they've been playing The Sims versions before that. So the builders, they don't tend to go over basics a whole lot anymore because they're so far past them. And I'm one of those people who's, number one, new to The Sims. And number two, I did not grow up in the computer age where a lot of this is intuitive, because I didn't grow up playing these kinds of games or working with keyboards and things like that. So it takes me time. I have to learn. I have to think it through. I have to experiment. I have to try different things until I finally figure out, oh, that's how it's done. So that's why my building tutorial, if you are young and playing The Sims forever, this is probably nothing new to you, and you're looking at me like, what are you explaining? Everybody knows this stuff. But I can tell you, no, everybody does not know this stuff. I started playing The Sims less than a year ago. I did not know this stuff, and it drove me crazy trying to figure it all out. And that is why I figure there's got to be other people out there like me, old fart ladies who, somebody who just didn't grow up in the computer and video game age. Like, to us, video games were Pong and Pac-Man Fever and stuff like that. We didn't play the kind of advanced games there are today with the kinds of controls there are today. We don't. It's not an instinct for us to know what to press or what to do. So it takes a little bit more explaining sometimes, and that's why I go over these in my builds. And I'm just fussing with these, but when I finally get them in place, there's her desk, and I'm going to definitely put a computer there. I don't want to put too much on the front of the desk because, like I said, that will ruin the function of the computer. So I'm just going to leave it like that and get to the bathroom. The bathroom, I thought about making the bathroom have a little closet area, a little shelving area with clothes and stuff, so that she can store her things. And again, these things are not functional in the game. You don't really need a lot of this stuff to be functional in the game. If you have a chair and a table, they could sit, or a couch or a bed, they could sit or sleep. They could use a computer at a desk or a table. They can use a stove, they can use a fridge, they can use a microwave, teapot, coffee pot. That's great. Everything else is purely for decoration. I mean, if you took out everything that is only decorative and non-functional, your Sims would have very sad, empty houses. So I would say, just don't worry about if you don't have enough money right now to do what you want, if you don't have enough simoleons. Don't worry about if you can't figure it, because you can always build, get the necessities in the house, and then build as you go along. And as you can see, I keep changing things, and I keep changing my mind, and that's fun. That's good. That's part of the creative process. That's what makes building creative and fun. I mean, God, I love house decorating, and I wish that it was this easy to decorate a real house, even if it's frustrating sometimes when things don't work out the way I want them to, or when I can't figure something out. But it's so nice to just be able to push a few buttons and see what you had in mind, and then be able to change it if you don't like it. Like, bah, bah, bah. You can't do that in real life. So that's why I love these build modes in The Sims, and I'm sure there are a lot of other games that have similar things that would be pretty cool. I know my kids had a house with Neopets, and I would help them decorate it, and that was kind of fun too. But they kind of outgrew that. They're all adults now or older teens, so they kind of outgrew that. But I have fun with the decorating. I was the kind of kid who would hide in the break room in the supermarket where I worked at 16 and 17 years old, reading Home and Garden magazines, imagining what would it be like to live in a house like that. It would be so cool. And if I didn't become a writer, I probably would have become an interior decorator, because I really love the whole creative decorating process. And I'm a total DIY person, going to garage sales and thrift shops and buying stuff and redoing it, refinishing things and experimenting with different paint techniques. I love doing stuff like that. So this is really a fun part of the game for me. And I'm also, because I'm a writer, and I think of in story terms. I like, in my head, I want my Sims to have a life and a story with consistency and who they are and what they're doing. I like it to look like their surroundings are what they would be if they were real people. So when I build and I'm able to customize their house, even if you can't build the entire house, just redecorate one heavily that you find that you like, and you can make it really, really unique. Because you go into different people's homes. I love looking at different people's homes because you see all those little quirkiness things in their personality based on what they put around, or you see like you could see everything in the way their home is decorated, their attitude, their work ethic, whether they're a romantic person or whether they're kind of more practical. It's there's so much you could tell by looking at a person's house. So that's why I feel like it's so important to. It's an important part of my game to really customize where my Sims are going to live. It's not always pretty either. I mean, there are some Sims I had playing around with one Sim, and the way I saw him was he was really broke and just career focused. He moved into an old apartment, and it looked like, it was messy and it was dirty, but I just did a little. It wasn't pretty, and that was the point. He was not a character who would have had this pretty, perfect, gorgeous apartment. It just wasn't the style. I mean, that's the whole point of playing The Sims for me, is I like to build the character. I like to build their world and create this story in my mind. It's like role-playing. But if you're here and you got this far, I'm sure I don't have to tell you. You know what I'm talking about. So I'm pretty much done, and let me show you some of the pictures so you can see the contrast. Just did a little bit on the outside here to show it off, make it pretty, and that's the inside. You can see the before and afters here. I love that yellow. I really do. Yellow is such a cheerful color, and the yellow and pink are really nice together here. But that's the makeover for this little apartment. And if you're on Origin and you go in the user gallery, I uploaded it. So if you wanted to use it in your game, feel free to get it. It's PositivelySimful is my username on Origin in the gallery, or you could look it up. I think I called it Slit42 Redo. You can find it. You can just stamp it down in your own game, in your own world, if you have somebody who you think might want to live in this little bungalow. But I would love that. I think it's adorable. I love tiny homes. So I'm really excited about the new game pack for the tiny homes, because I know I'm going to have a lot of fun with that. And it looks pretty amazing from what I've seen so far. But that's it. Hope you like it. And if you're new to building, I hope that it helped you. I hope that I helped you learn something so that you can do this yourself. And thanks for watching. Thanks for watching my series. Remember, I still got 100 baby series going on, so if you want to check that out, I'll put the link below. I'll also put the link below for the red board and for my article, which gives you the written step-by-step of this if you're the kind of person that likes to actually see it written out. Thank you so much for being here. You guys have a great night. Happy simming, and I'll see you next time.